Okay, so good evening, everyone. With great honor, the Centro de Ciências, Educação, Artes e Letras, FURB, holds the web conference entitled Discussing the Principles of a Good English Class with Professor Dr. Paola Gabriella Biehl. This web conference is part of the activities predicted in the course plan for the discipline Inglês 3 of the Letras course FURB Blumenau. More specifically, today's event is part of the activities inherent to the Prática como componente curricular of this course. And because of the context of the pandemic, which had made it extremely difficult for our students to have access to institutions, we had to adapt the activities to the remote format, including web conferences, as the one we are having today, with specialists in the area, and also study and presentation of texts on topics related to the teaching of the English language for Educação Básica. We also have the lecture of Professor Paola, partly expositive and partly interactive. She's going to conduct that. And after that, a brief period for remaining questions and answers. Paola prefers this format of interacting and elucidating doubts and questions during the lecture. But in the case of remaining questions, for sure you can type them on the chat. Yeah. Also, I'd like to ask you to please keep your mics and cameras off during the lecture, unless Professor Paola requires you or requires some type of interaction. So now I invite Professor Carla Nolli, coordinator of Colegiado de Letras, da FURB, to introduce our lecturer.
Yes! Okay. Paola Gabriella Biehl possui graduação em Letras, bacharelado pela Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul, especialização em metodologia de ensino de português e língua estrangeira pela Uninter, mestrado e doutorado em Estudos Linguísticos pela Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina em ensino e aprendizagem. Atua como professora de inglês, coordenadora pedagógica, formadora de professores, tradutora e intérprete. Viu? Ela faz mais coisa do que eu, do que nós, né? Possui vasta experiência na área de letras, como professora, coordenadora pedagógica do Instituto Yázigi, de 1989 até 2013, além de lecionar em escolas particulares privadas, alunos particulares, alunos em company, além de fornecer treinamento e capacitação para professores e gestão pedagógica. É um prazer estar com ela, que foi minha colega de uma disciplina de doutorado. Paola, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here also among friends. Yeah, I can see friendly faces. I can't see the students, but anyway, afterwards we're going to see each other. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you so that we can start interacting. Yeah. Can you see?
Not yet. Not yet. Maybe it's loading.
Yeah, maybe it's a little slow. What about now?
Yes, now
Yes, I think you can.
Yes.
That's it. All right, I can see Cynthia. It's very good that I can see somebody, because when I defended my doctoral dissertation now in December, I couldn't see anybody, and it looked like I was talking to nobody, you know. So it was difficult. So if I can see one face, it's better.
So I'll be here.
Yeah, please, somebody stay here with me, so I don't feel lonely. Well, so as Professor Carla explained, my area of study for the last 15 years, I guess, is teacher education. Yeah. And when we talk about teacher education, I think one of the most important things is how to prepare a class. What is a good class? Yeah. First of all, let me tell you something. This is not a formula, providing formulas, providing recipes for good classes, okay? This is a moment for us to think about, to reflect upon principles of effective class techniques or effective class actions that the teachers take. Yeah, I know that there are some people from the 3rd period, the 5th period, yeah. Some people in masters, I think. Yeah, I was taken by surprise by that. But anyway, I hope that I can contribute to your learning and for us to share ideas and reflect upon concepts. This is my email if later on you want to email me or even look for me on social media, I'm there. So first of all, I would like you to keep your mics on now, guys, because this is a brainstorming. I think it was explained that I'm going to ask people to talk to me, right? This is going to be a workshop. So when you think about a class, what are the elements, what are the aspects that you expect to find in a class? We're not talking about a good class yet. So if you want to interact with me.
One at a time, please, guys.
Yeah, you have to talk because I cannot see the chat here.
I can help you with the chat.
Yeah.
No, Sydney, I can't. I cannot see the chat.
No, I can't as
You
well.
can.
I can't
Okay.
see the chat.
So what are the
Maybe
elements of a
Carla?
class? So what does a class include?
Carla, can you see the chat? Just a sec, Paul.
I don't know.
Hi, students.
Hi. Somebody
Student?
says. Student, okay.
Estava falando com o microfone desligado.
So one aspect is you need in a class is a student, right? What else? What can I put on the second quadrant?
Teacher.
Yay! So there is a student, there is a teacher. This is a lesson. It doesn't have to be 4, okay? You can talk about more elements. It's just that the format of the slide is like this. What else is involved? A student, a teacher.
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Come on, guys. What else? I think people are shy, Paola.
Yeah, people are still shy. Yeah, don't worry, I cannot see your faces.
I don't know. For me, classes or lessons. Good evening, by the way. There's always have to be activities or something that challenges.
You think it has to be challenging activities or just activities?
I don't know. For me, it's depending on the level.
Let's put into words then. It can be other words, okay? It doesn't have to be just 4 words. Any other aspect that you think makes a class a class?
Interaction.
Okay, let's put here in student then, or in activities.
I would say also resources, like then we are including everything. We are including the book, we are including like technology. I would say resources in general.
Books.
Yes. Any other idea?
Objectives.
Objectives. Let's put here in knowledge. Let's put goals or objectives. Any other idea? I guess we're okay. Let me just start sharing again. So this is what you said, that a class involves students and teachers' knowledge. There needs to be goals or objectives, and in this interaction, there are activities that have to be challenging and depending on resources. That's a good, okay, let's finish the class now. There is one definition by Sauvignon that has to do a lot of with what you exposed here. So it's a moment of interaction that was said, right, between student, teacher, and the content. You said knowledge, which is basically similar, right? That involves the context. And this is something that we need to take into consideration, because a lesson is a process of interaction that involves teachers, students, and content, which needs to take into account the social historical context in which you are inserted, right? The community.
Paola?
Yes?
Paola, are you sharing, have you changed the slide?
Yes, I have.
We're seeing the first.
Oh
We're
my
seeing the
God.
brainstorming.
Oh my God. So what do I do?
Maybe stop sharing, Paola, and start again. Share your desktop. Now it changed, but it's still small. It's not big on the screen. I think maybe F5.
You know
Can you
the
see now?
Yeah, we can see. You know the symbol next to the 69% in the Zoom, in the very bottom of your screen? Go to the very bottom.
Okay.
Okay, no, there's this, no, not this one, not this one.
Yes.
The next. Click on that. It's gonna.
I think
Can
it's
you
not
see
going.
now?
Oh,
No.
it's not working.
Okay,
It
let me go.
should.
Yeah,
Let me go to share.
Stop
Yes.
sharing on Teams, Paola,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's on the sharing thing,
Yeah.
not on PowerPoint.
Let's start again.
Yeah, start share your desktop. It must go. Now let's try
Can you
again.
see now?
Small again, but we can see. I think now it's gonna go.
A class lesson is?
I think so.
What can you see, Cynthia?
I can still see the small one, but I think it's loading. Sydney, what do you see?
I'm seeing a lesson. A lesson is. But I guess it's fine to see.
Yeah, we can see it. The font is not small. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm presenting the slides. You cannot see the slide presentation?
Mm-mm.
Oh. Okay, let me just then.
I
I
can.
think you can? You can see the slide presentation, not the small one.
The big one on the whole
I can
screen.
see not the whole screen, but I can see the sequence of your slides in one side.
Oh yeah, it should be the slide presentation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Que é uma chave 2?
If you click F5, maybe.
It's not going, I think.
No. Maybe you close and open again sometimes.
Or Paola, if you want, you can send the slides to one of us and we can share the screen for you. Maybe it works.
I don't know, because it should be working, right?
Yeah, this is what Raquel Deli says, tech, no logic.
Okay, let me try.
I like that.
Yeah, no logic, because we have everything set, organized, and when the time comes, nothing works. Let's see. Still small.
And now?
Maybe I am checking here on the top, transmitir apresentação de slides. Let me see what you get there. By the side of where you clicked, Paola.
I have partilhar conteúdo.
I don't know.
Mais ações? No.
Now we don't see anything.
Yeah, I'm not sharing anything. Conceder controle. Ok, let me see. Incluir som do computador. Parar a apresentação.
Transmitir a apresentação de slides, Paola.
Where?
Up there.
The third option from left to right.
You were there.
You were there.
Where? Here
on
Up.
on top
On your left?
Aqui, transistor.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe this one. No, this is
No.
something related to the web.
Yeah, not to what we want.
Paola, I think you need to click on you need to stop sharing your screen again.
Go, Julia. Help us.
And then share again, but click on the first option, it's desktop.
Yes,
Transmitir
desktop.
área de trabalho, something like this.
Yes. Go there.
One of the
where
first options.
Área de trabalho.
Yeah.
Screen 1. Reunião agora.
No, first of
área
all.
de trabalho, área de trabalho.
First of all, you click on the arrow pointing,
up on Teams.
Pointing up. Go there, and then now you have some options there.
Yeah, I have here screen 1, reunião agora, what's a good class? Geral, língua inglesa 3.
Generally, we have to select the first option.
Which is desktop, normally. Let's see.
Let's see now.
Yeah.
Yay, now you have it.
Now
okay.
Can you see?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. Yes.
You're
Computer
welcome.
savvy.
See, students know much more than us.
Of course.
Always.
Yeah. When you get to 50, when you're in your 50s, you have to relearn things over again.
That's why we are surrounded by the 20s.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back, remember let me go back to the topics that you said here. You said that a class needs students, teachers, interaction, knowledge, challenges, activities, resources. Yeah, these are the words that you said. So Savignon brings us a definition or a concept that the class involves students, teacher, and content that is supposed to be similar to knowledge, right? In a process of interaction, but you have to take into account the context in which the students, the classes, the school is, right? And this context is social historical based, right? It's here and it's in this place and it's in this moment of history, yeah. And if we bridge this to the moment that we are having now, yeah, where is the context? The context is online, right? So you guys are in Blumenau or in other places. I'm here in Balneário Camboriú, and we are having this talk, right? It could be from people from other countries, right? So now we have some things different. You also need to take into account a set of values and principles, which are the teacher's values and principles. Yeah, how does the teacher see learning? The school's values and principles that you're going to work for. Yeah, you have to follow the school's methodology, the school's mission, yeah, the school's guidelines, and etc. And you also have clear learning and educational goals, which was another topic that you mentioned. So you mentioned a lot of the topics that Savignon also brings for us. Now, the topic of this workshop is what is a good class? Why is good between quotation marks? Because it depends, right? Johnson always says that it depends what is a good class. Depends on the teacher's values, etc., etc. So I guess that everybody has received the handout that I asked Sydney to share with you. That is a handout by Richards and Farrell that says the core principles central to the concept of good teaching. Yes, I think you received this handout, and he talks a lot about what are these very broad principles that teachers should take into account. And this is a workshop, so today we're going to discuss these ideas, yeah? It's a workshop, so we are going to discuss in groups, okay? Let me go back here to the presentation, because I'm going to stop sharing now. And you can see me now. I'm going to ask you to get together in groups. First, guys, you can open your mics now. Do all of you have the handout that was shared? I think all the teachers have shared the handout. Yeah. So if you remember, in the handout, there are 8 principles. Okay. So I'm going to create 8 rooms for you to share your ideas of what you understand by the principles. After you share these ideas, then we are going to get together, and one of the group is going to speak, or if you decide, more people from the group is going to speak about what you understand about that core principle. Okay? So now I go in the rooms. Yeah, I was taught how to do it. 8 rooms. This is my first time using Microsoft Teams, okay?
Paola,
Yes.
then if I'm in group 3, that means I have to talk about principle 3.
Exactly.
Yes? Okay.
Okay, so if you're in group 1, principle 1, group 2, principle 2, yeah? So if you can get your handouts, right?
Paola?
Yes?
And Sydney, I'm sorry, I couldn't open the handout, the link that Sydney sent me, so I didn't send to my group. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
If you have it now, I can
Sure.
send it now.
I have it, Carla. I will share with you on WhatsApp.
Thanks.
Okay. So I'm going to create the rooms, okay? And you are going to get 5 minutes talking about what you understand from the core principle. After 5 minutes, we're going to get back to the main room. And one of the group, or if you decide more people from the group, is going to talk about what you understand from the core principle. And then we're going to go on discussing as a whole group. Okay, do you understand? Yes, I cannot see the faces.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I closed all the rooms. Sorry.
No.
Very democratic.
No. Okay.
You were crying, Paola, because we were talking, and then I just saw the message. The room is going to be closed in 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
But that was good.
Okay. So here are the core principles. Yeah, I cannot see anybody, but anyway, here are the core principles, and then we're going to bring your ideas, yeah, before we see the summary of the ideas. And then if you have any question about anything that you didn't understand, guys, feel free to ask, okay? Because this is not going to be like a session of questions and answers in the end. If you want, I can also answer anything. Okay, but basically now the questions that you have can be solved at the time, okay? Don't be afraid to ask. So the first one is core principle number 1. The lesson and your conduct in it reflect the professional standards expected of English language teachers. So group 1, what did you understand by that?
Good night. I will talk for... I am nervous, but I will try to in English.
Very good.
So we understand the chapter 1 puts pressure on the expectation of being a teacher. We must be empathetic. We must we need to levar em consideração.
Take into consideration.
Yeah, take into consideration age, gender, culture, or religion. And we must always be controlled emotionally. But the case is that we are not perfect. And we think about everything we need to be and what we need to do. And we are just humans. So how we will be the perfect human, to be a perfect teacher, to follow these standards, these norms, these rules. So we talk about everything about around this topic.
Yeah. Core principle 1 talks about the teacher conduct in the class. Yeah. Of course, you mentioned about being perfect. Nobody's perfect, but when you are in a classroom, you are in the shoes of a teacher. You are not, I'm not Paola when I'm in the classroom. I am teacher Paola. And it's a mask that we put on, right? Sometimes we have a lot of problems happening in our personal lives, and this cannot transmit to the teacher, to the students. Ideally, we are talking about an ideal situation, right? But the most important is the teacher carefully plans lessons. Lesson planning is essential, yeah? If you want to have a good class, it's essential that you plan the class. Why is it so essential? Because you need to go to the classroom knowing what you're going to do, yeah? Sometimes teachers get nervous because they haven't planned the class as well. Sometimes something like the handouts and things are not there, yeah? Sometimes happens something with the internet. And then you have to control your emotions because something bad can happen, right? And this core principle also says about the behavior inside the classroom, but also outside. And I think that's what you probably discussed about, yeah. This is very controversial, yeah. And I can say about my experience, I have been teaching for 31 years, and I have some experience with students meeting me in clubs, for example, and saying, teacher, what are you doing here? As if we just go to the classes and go home, you know, we don't have a social life, right? But then, especially if you teach children, teenagers, they see yourself as a role model, yeah. And unfortunately, they are going to see you in baladas, in clubs, and etc. And you are a social model to them, right? Nowadays, this is transferred to social media, right? So how is your social media? I remember when I worked in the institution that I worked for a long time, I had one social media as the coordinator and one social media as my private life. So this is very controversial. I don't know if you have anything else, if any from other groups would like to talk about anything concerning this aspect. If you have read the handout, if you agree, disagree, yeah. This is a suggestion. It's not like you have to agree.
I'm a little bit scared of it because I think about it in the future, you know. How will my students see me if they look back at my Facebook or something? I'm like, oh my God. I need to be very careful, like by now, to not suffer some consequences in the future. I don't know. It's just overwhelming sometimes.
Yes, this is something that we have to take care. Yeah, not only from the student's perspective, but also from the place where we're going to work. Yeah, our employer, for example. A lot of employers in the corporate business, I work a lot with in-company classes, yeah. In the corporate business, the corporate world, they go into Facebook and social media accounts, and they check the person's background, yeah. So this is important to pay attention to. Anybody disagrees? You think it's not essential that you are who you are? And that's the moment, okay? There is no right or wrong answer here. We're just talking about discussing and reflecting.
I guess that I kind of disagree. Like now, in the moment that I am, like in life, because yes, I understand that we have to be careful, but I guess like social media is something really personal, you know. Like of course, if we're working with teenagers, we might have like some stalkers out there. But I had like teachers that had like really private lives, so they told us what they wanted to tell us, but actually their social media were their social media, so we actually understood that. So I don't know, I guess it's really tricky sometimes.
Yeah, of course, you can open your social media to whoever you want, right? It doesn't have to be open, public, right? You can select who you want to have on your social media. Anybody else has anything to say? Can we go to the second? I cannot see anybody, so I'm just listening, okay? Number 2, the lesson reflects a theoretically grounded and principled understanding of language learning. Group 2, have you discussed anything about it?
Yes, we have. Oh, I happen to be in the group.
Okay.
I don't know if Laura or Gabriela or Anna wants to say something. Otherwise, I can talk the whole night.
Hi. I think I would just say what we talked at the end. That was the connection that we do between our practice and the theory part. So Cynthia asked me about my teaching, and I said I usually use or think more about the practice I've already had than the theory. And she told us about the connections we made. So when we are talking, for example, we saw Vygotsky in the internship class, and I've said, okay, I did it in class, but now I'm connecting to the theory. So that is the part that we connect what we already done in class to the theory, or for those who are not teaching, to the theory. And then when you are teaching and you see the subject or the point again, you will say, oh my gosh, I've already did it, or I've already learned it in college and in university. So I think it's about the connections we made between what we've done and what we've learned. Then we do, we reflect in lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, Laura. Hearts to you.
This to me anymore, Cynthia. Don't do this anymore.
Yeah, we were discussing about that everything we do in class reflects what we believe in, what we have learned somehow as a student, as a teacher, so we have our principles, right? So everything we do reflects those principles. I think that we were talking about. Yeah.
We just talked about this in class a little bit. Like, we are planning a class, and I told them, when we plan a class, we basically plan a class based on your beliefs. Well, we are all tuned in.
I don't know how was your process, but it took me some time to start really grounding my classes theoretically. First of all, because I had this long experience working with elementary school, and studying at UFSC and having access to some more texts and materials, I could go back to the things that I used to do and to evaluate and understand theoretically what was going on. And the connections you are talking about now, and this period of my life, co-occurs, like activities and the theory behind it. So it's not only an ice-breaking activity for the beginning of a class, yeah? After having read that positive emotions broaden the focus of attention of a person, and that by broadening the focus of attention, more information is encoded at the same time, it's nice to involve students in something which is positive, not just because it's fun, it is fun, but because there is something going on in memory. And I do not stop to think about it anymore. I already know that I have to do because it works and research has shown it again and again and again. So it's something that we automatize with time, and we feel that certain steps must be included, otherwise the process is going to be broken. That's the way I think.
Mm-hmm. Any other ideas? Yeah, I think there are different phases of development here. Yeah, people who have started taking university now and don't have any experience in teaching. People who have already taught for a long time. Yeah, but the importance is what you both in both the classes, let's say, make this bridge. Yeah, bridge the theory to the practice, because one thing has to be together with the other. Somebody mentioned Vygotsky, yeah, so if you get Vygotsky's notion, you have the spontaneous concepts, everyday empirical concepts, and you have the scientific concepts. That's what we are doing here. And the true concept comes when you join them, yeah, the theory with the practice. And this is really important, yes, this thing that you are experiencing now, yeah, to see that some things that you felt were nice in your classes now are grounded in theory. Yeah. It's very interesting when you do this. Something that I have to talk about is something I think that Carla said. Yeah, how do I believe people learn? This is the first thing you have to consider when you are starting to teach. Yeah. And maybe a lot of people here are going to start teaching in language schools, language institutes, and each school has a certain method, right? So do you believe in that method? Do you think people really learn in the method of the school that you're going to work for? If not, there is a big problem. Yeah, Houston, we have a problem, right? Because how can I teach in a method that I don't believe in, right? So this is just some food for thought, yeah, for you to select where you're going to work in the future or now, right? Some people are already teaching it. Let me see what it says here. So the teacher is familiar with instructional methods and their underlying principles, effective classroom techniques, materials, and assessment strategies. By the end of your academic life at FURB, hopefully you'll be shown these instructional methods, methodologies, theories of language, principles, techniques, and then you can put them into practice in your practicum, estágio, in your practicum, and in your life. I started teaching when I started university. I was 18 years old. So my practice came from the spontaneous concepts. I learned how to teach by teaching. And it's hard because then you have to see what works and what doesn't work in the practice, right? If you have the scientific concept behind it, makes it much easier, right? Anybody has anything else to say? Can I move on to the next one? Yeah. So number 3, the lesson is effectively managed. Group 3. Can you hear me, guys? Hi.
Hey, we had a little bit of communication issues because whatever, it doesn't matter now, but we talked a little bit and it's like we I guess it's like making the students comfortable while teaching.
Okay, how can you do that? How can you make students comfortable? I think CJ has already given you a hint. Yeah, using music, yeah. CJ uses music.
Warm-up activities.
Okay. What are warm-up activities? What's the goal of a warm-up activity?
Warming students up.
Yeah, warm the brain up.
Yeah, prepare them for what's coming, right? Having fun. Yeah, making them talk. Focus, yeah. Right?
The idea of a warm-up activity usually involves fun, but to me, the most important part of the first part of the lesson, that is the opening, I think this is in this core principle, is to contextualize what the students are going to learn. Yeah, it's not nice for a teacher to come to class and say, "Hi, students, how are you? Let's open the book to page 10, for example." Yeah, the ideal is that you contextualize the learning to reach to page 10, to get there, you know, instead of just saying open your books to page 10. And then you have to think about the sequence, yeah, how you're going to transit between one task to the other, one activity to the other. So there is a flow of activities in the lesson. And then you have to think how you're going to close that. Yeah, what's the closure of the moment? Where you're going to assess the language, the content that was learned. Yeah. Anybody else? No. So it says here, teacher creates a positive environment for learning, develops and enforces clear classroom procedures, very broadly. Any other comment on that? So let's go to number 4. The lesson provides appropriately structured and sequenced learning experiences. Group 4.
Can I speak in Portuguese, please?
I don't know if you can. Cíntia, Carla, Cid.
Ok, thanks. É que eu fico ainda muito nervosa, ainda tenho que desenvolver, então eu prefiro falar português aqui. A gente estava discutindo ali no nosso grupo, né, sobre essa parte 4, que o autor vai enumerar mais 3 tópicos dentro dessa número 4, né, que são as aberturas das aulas, seria o desenvolvimento, né, a sequência e o fechamento. Que daí é onde a gente vê, eu mesmo, os professores que eu tive, nunca tinha pensado, por exemplo, na abertura da aula, sabe? Não é uma coisa que a gente dá muita bola, né? A abertura e o fechamento. A gente presta mais atenção na sequência ali, né? E eu só tenho para comentar que eu achei bem legal ali uns exemplos ali que ele pega de alguns alunos falando como a professora elaborava ali no quadro para quem chegasse atrasado, essas coisas assim. Então, fez refletir sobre essas outras 2 partes e não só o que eu vou dar, mas como que eu vou fazer isso e como que eu posso atingir todos dentro da sala, enfim.
Yeah, what I was saying before is here in number 4, about the parts of the lesson, right? I talked about 3 and 4 together. The famous PPP, presentation, practice, and production phases, yeah. When I am teaching teachers how to teach, I would say that the openings, the starting, the contextualization, the warm-up, whatever you want to call, the first part of the lesson is the most important because it leads students to the goal of the lesson, right? What is the main goal? What is the objective of the lesson? By the end of the lesson, what are students supposed to have learned? Yeah. So based on the goal, then you're going to do the procedures, right? So the first procedure, in my opinion, is the most important. That is warming up, contextualizing, getting to the goal of the test, of the class. And when you're talking about language classes, modeling, yeah, to model what students are supposed to do. So for example, if students are supposed to ask each other about the weekend in the past, so how can they know what to ask if they are not modeled, if they're not told how to ask, for example? Yeah. Anybody else has anything to say about this? No? So it says, teacher sequences activities that lead towards the successful completion of lesson goals and objectives. And then you have the openings, the sequencing, which is how one task leads to the other, what's the common thread between them. Yeah, you have, for example, a listening task in the beginning. Yeah, you have the warm-up, the contextualization, then you have the practice, then you have the closure of the listening. How does it go to the next task? Let's say a speaking activity about the listening. There are two different tasks, two different objectives, right? One, listening is one objective and speaking is another objective. So it has to be another contextualization. This contextualization is then the link or the sequencing, yeah. And the closing is each task, for example, one listening has a closure. Yeah, by the end of the task, what did the students learn? What was the learning result? And students should be aware too about this result, because this motivates them, intrinsic motivation. Oh, I'm able to do this, yeah.
May I say something, Paola?
Sure.
This awareness of what is going on. I was saying something in our group. In the language processing perspective, we call metacognition, which is developing one's ability to be under control of what is going on in memory, and like tracing strategies in order to achieve the goal set in the beginning, and remediating the strategies if necessary in order for you to have better results. So I think what you have just mentioned has to do with what we call metacognition, that has to be developed in our students, which is helping them learn how to observe themselves, how to like fly above their own thoughts and evaluate if they are really learning or not.
Yeah, this has to do more with what Kumarava Biehl says about the macro strategies that we're going to get there. But it's essential, right? To make learners aware of good strategies, yeah? What strategies work for you? Yeah, how do you learn better? It has to do with learning styles, yeah? Anybody else? Can we go to group 5? So group 5, the lesson provides opportunities for learners to process and practice using language in a meaningful way. Anybody who has this?
So, good evening.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, we think what opportunities the student of a language bring, and what skill does this teaching bring? It depends on the type of class a teacher applies, because sometimes we need to teach 30 students or 10 students, so we need to shape or a plan. And we must to think, actually, we must think about what opportunities these students have to practice this language, because they often only practice at the school or knowledge school, at the home, only in movies, music, or after. All parents don't speak the language as well.
So providing more opportunities for learners to practice the language, yeah.
Yes.
Only in the language classes, yeah. Language classes at school usually focus on translation of text, because they have to teach to ENEM or vestibular, right? So there is a big problem here. Yeah, if you go to language schools, then they have twice a week or once a week, depends on the language school, yeah. So how can we maximize this? The lesson should provide these opportunities, right? Anybody else?
Yes.
So it says here the kinds, amount of challenge of language learning opportunities. So what kinds of language learning opportunities are offered to students? Yeah, they should be meaningful. They should make sense to students. Yeah, the quantity, how much language opportunities are there, and how challenging are them. I think in the beginning somebody talked about challenging. If it's too easy, then it makes no sense. If it's over challenging, then it's too hard, right? So balancing the the amount of challenge too. And then the teacher understands the competencies or skills the course is addressing, the specific course you are teaching, and refers to these skills when planning and reviewing your lessons. Yeah. As I said before, you are going to work for a certain school or a certain institute, or you're going to be a private teacher maybe, right? But anyway, you have to see, if you're a private teacher, how you believe teaching is done, and then maybe you're going to follow a book, a material. Yeah. So how you can foster opportunities for learners to process and practice the language, yeah, in a meaningful way, that means that makes sense to them, yeah, not just repeating, right? There is a method that is based on repetition, but only repeating, yeah, without making their own, right? So these are things that we have to start thinking about when you are teaching how to teach. Yeah. Number 6, the lesson creates the motivation to learn and provides opportunities for success. Group 6.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
So we were talking about this, and well, this part is about more of motivation and the importance of thinking of activities that are interesting and that gives the motivation to the students, like to enjoy learning it, and that it has like a positive atmosphere about it. And also the teachers ways of leading the class that should be motivating and things like that. And something that we were thinking about it when we read the text is about there's a part here that says, can I building more opportunities for success in my lessons, for example, by choosing activities that challenge but do not frustrate learners. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about that. Of course, it's important for them, like to be excited about an activity, but we are also talking about that sometimes frustration is a healthy part of learning. Sometimes it's okay to be frustrated as well. And of course, we are not going to depreciate a student or something like that. But I think sometimes frustration is important as well. A little bit of frustration, and it's important, and it's part of the learning. When we are challenging, at the same time we are excited, we can be a little bit frustrated, and it's okay. So I think that it's an important thing to have in mind. Even if a student come to us and think, oh, I'm feeling frustrated, and I think it's important that it's okay, feel frustrated sometimes, but we'll do better that next time, but not to pretend that it's forbidden to be frustrated, you know? We were talking about this.
Okay, yeah, very good point, yeah. Making errors is essential, and it's normal, and it's okay to make errors, yeah, to make mistakes when you are learning, right? Students should be aware of that, yeah, and the teacher too, right? It's part of the learning process, because some methodologies say that it's forbidden to make mistakes, and then students shut up, yeah, and then they have a negative attitude towards learning, right? I think that's what you were talking about when you say frustration, yeah, like, oh, I didn't get it this time, or why didn't get it? And it's normal, okay, I didn't get it this time, but next time I'm gonna get it, right? Anything else?
I will talk about a lecture I saw about this. He teach English without teaching English. He started talking about the students, the moment they were living, and making them more comfortable to speak. they knew the grammar, but speaking was the problem. So the students wanted to speak. So this teacher changed to introduce what they wanted, but were afraid to do. And as they all wanted to interact in these common conversations or ordinary, I don't know, they started asking, como se diz? So the teacher motivated them to learn from what they already want to learn. I think this is important.
That's it. And making students aware of how much they know, focusing on the positive, instead of focusing on the negative. See, for them to be aware, to realize the extent of knowledge they know, and not focus on the negative, what they don't know, right? Motivation can be intrinsic or extrinsic, right? Extrinsic is when it comes from outside. For example, I need to learn English to get a better job, or to get a promotion, or to travel. And intrinsic is I need to learn English because I want to know a language, for example, right? So intrinsic motivation, it's much better in these terms. When a person is intrinsically motivated, usually this person goes on and wants to learn more. Here in this, no, forget about it. It's another one. Any other aspect? So number 6, the lesson creates the motivation to learn and provides opportunities for success. Oops, sorry. Teacher develops a classroom atmosphere that encourages and motivates students in their learning. Knowing their names is very important, knowing their backgrounds. If you are with a group of students, what are their names, what are their backgrounds, where do they come from, etc. Also provide opportunities for student-student comparison instead of student-student competition. Sometimes there is a lot of games in terms of competition in classes, and this sometimes causes a rivalry between students. There is also a motivational checklist that is on the handout page 82 that is very interesting. If you want to take a look after, it's in the handout. For example, do I vary the way I teach my lessons? Do I include activities that are just to maintain motivation? So there are a lot of things that you can do if you feel that your classes are not so motivated. Okay, number 7, the lesson achieves meaningful and learning outcomes. Group 7.
Se a Blizzard não botar uma punição, eles têm.
Oops.
Carla, would you like to?
Carla, Sidney. No, I think your idea was better than mine, so you can talk about it, about the product.
Okay, so let's see. Here we have meaningful and learning outcomes, which must be included in the core principles. And the author, he kind of divides this outcomes into observable outcomes, such as, let me give you an example here, just one moment, because I lost my pages. Here. They can be observable, like to learn how to write paragraphs containing a thesis statement and supporting ideas, or to practice self-editing skills in composition. And these learning outcomes, they can also be in terms of learning experiences, like internal processes, such as to have a successful experience in language learning, or to encourage students to work productively and cooperatively, or to help develop a positive attitude toward language learning. So here we can see a very discrete difference between the observable outcomes, which seem to be more related to the tasks and activities that we do, and the second one are more related to personal experiences, to processes, internal processes. And also, the author concludes saying something that these outcomes that you plan for your classes, they may be planned for long term or for short term, yes, and I guess this is the summary of it.
That's it. Any
Yeah,
other
we also-
idea?
Yeah, we also talk about how can what is the meaningful outcome, right? How can we make how can we make students achieve the class goal, because it's not your goal or the student's goal, it's the goal of the class, right? That you prepare. So as much as you can, you have to. I haven't read the topic. I just quickly read it at the moment, so I'm not sure if it's there. But to achieve this meaningful outcome, maybe we should personalize language, show students examples that are close to them, real examples. Use their names, their parents' names, I don't know, family, famous people, or things that are real to them. So only teaching grammar points, it doesn't mean that they are going to learn or they are going to produce the outcome. So basically that's what we talked about.
Okay.
Also, right?
Yeah, of course, the students have to do this. They have to have this an awareness of the outcomes that they are having from classes. But the teacher can also access specific and observable skills or competencies at the end of a lesson. This is what we call the closure of the lesson. Yeah. Then remember that you have, when you are planning a class, you have a goal, and then in the end of the class, was this goal achieved? How do you perceive that? How can you make sure that the goal you set out to do in the class was achieved? Yeah. So you have a moment of accountability, a moment of checking, understanding, checking how much they learned, for themselves to check how much they learned. Yeah. I've already seen some teachers reserve the last 5 minutes of the class for students to say what they have learned. So it was a moment for them to stop and what have I learned today? Yeah. And how does this contribute to my long-term goal of learning? Right. So this some things that we can talk about, we can think about when preparing classes. Group 8, the lesson reflects your personal philosophy of teaching. Who is responsible for group 8?
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have some difficulty about say some words, but I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Okay. We need to reflect about the principles, methods teaching English. Some basic rules. Everybody say the class need to be fun. Learning is to relax. So in this cap, we talk about some principles to be a good teacher. They talk about respect, emotions, family. Have a good methods. The teaching has a method, a planning, and the most important for me, everything you decide to learn, say about your motivated to students. To finish in these rules, we always be reviewing our teaching practice. We need to justify our lessons, why we learn, the things we learn, why it's important. We need be able for this. Everyone talk about teaching methods, but what the best? Well, this lesson say your way, your person, method teachers. Everything you do make the class good or not. I think is it.
Very good. That's it. What is your personal philosophy? What is your personal way of teaching? Yeah. So the teacher teaches in their own way, based on personality, the way they are, the way they view the world, the way they believe in language teaching, what theories they believe in, how they believe learning takes place. Yeah. And you mentioned about theories, right? There are a lot of theories of learning. So how do we teach? Do you know any methodologies of learning? How do we teach a lesson? Does any methodology come to your mind, guys? Everybody, not only group 8. By teaching this specific method. What is this specific method?
I think the motion method, all you learn, you need to do with love. So, você realmente vai saber que no final você fez com muita dedicação, because we need with love.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, put a lot of effort and love into what you do. Okay. Do you know any names of methodologies? So I teach in this method. Have you ever heard of methodology names?
Communicative method.
Grammar and translation.
Okay.
Can be one.
Yes.
Wow.
Or audiolingual.
Okay.
Or direct method.
Yes. Check.
And there is another, but I don't know how it works. It's silent way.
Silent way, yes.
Yes.
Any other that comes to your mind? Everybody?
Post method.
That's not a method. That's a way of seeing the world. So here are some methods that there are. Lexical approach, suggestopedia. I think CG would like that. Communicative approach, grammar translation, audiolingual, direct method, task-based method, and the silent way. The silent way is not for students to be silent, it's for the teacher to speak as less as possible. Okay. But the most important, it's important to know what method you're going to teach if you teach for a specific school, right, that has, for example, the communicative approach, yeah, and then the task-based approach, or the grammar translation, repetition, yeah. But Prabhu in 1990 said that there is no best method. Why? Why do you think there is no best method? We have 10 minutes, okay. Why isn't there a best method, in your opinion, guys? Or do you think there is a best method? Do you think there is a best method to teach?
I guess because like our reality here in Brazil is different from India. Like the way we will teach is different.
Oh yes, yeah. Remember the first slide, the context, yeah, in which we teach.
Yes.
So why do you think he said that there is no best method? If there are so many methods, what's the best one?
The best one is the one you learn.
Yeah.
So it depends on the student's way of learning. Like I'm a visual person, so I have to look and draw and write. But there are some people like my husband. He just listens and he learns everything. I hate him.
My husband too. Any other ideas? Well, said that the different methods are best for different teaching contexts. So what our friend there said, in India is different from Brazil, right? What's the best method even in Brazil? Brazil is a huge country, continental country, right? Even here, right? What's the context? The context of where language class, private class, in company, regular school, yeah. All methods are partially true or valid, otherwise they wouldn't be methods. They were thought by people who understand a lot about language, linguistics, and methodology, right? And the notion of good and bad method is itself misguided. Why? Because there is no best method. Best for whom? Is it, if it's better for you, maybe it's not better for me, right? So he also says, sorry, that the enemy of good teaching is not bad method, but over routinization. What is this? It's when a teacher always does the same, no matter of the consequences, no matter of the impact this method is having on the students here. I only teach in the communicative approach. Doesn't matter if my students are learning or not, right? And so he continues saying that the method should be simply seen as a highly developed and highly articulated sense of plausibility. And this notion of sense of plausibility is very important for us because it is how we understand the teaching that we do. In his words, is the subjective understanding of the teachers that we do. Of course, when we are beginner teachers, you are starting to understand how the whole process goes on. But when you go further in the profession, you see, oh, why do I teach the way I teach? Yeah, how do I understand this? Why do I do these things? And this questioning, reflective teaching is the most important thing, to see why you are doing this, and maybe if it's not working, to reorient your practice, right? So the teachers need to operate with some personal conceptualization of how their teaching leads to the desired learning, to the goal that they want to achieve. Yeah. And this understanding arises from their own experience as learners. When you are learners, you have an idea about what is a class, right? Because you have been a learner for all your life, so you know what a class is. From experience with teachers, you know, that, oh, I liked the teacher so much, I liked his or her class so much, but why did you like it? Yeah. What made that class so good for you? Academic studies, the ones that we are having here, we are reflecting on methods, methodologies or not, yeah. Professional education and peer consultation when you talk to colleagues in the field. And then Kuma Ravadivelu is too big, so people call him Kuma. He came up with a framework for teaching L2 that is independent of methods. His article is called The Post-Method Condition. Yeah. So there are macro strategies that he suggested that can be applied for any contexts. So the macro strategy one is to maximize learning opportunities, willingness on the part of teachers to modify their lesson plans continuously on the basis of feedback. Yeah. So the teacher, when teaching a lesson, should reflect on the lesson. Did the lesson contemplate what I wanted? If not, do I need to review that? What happened? This is reflective teaching. Also, this modification can come in the class. Yeah, this is called in-flight decisions. When you are doing something, it's not working, it's not going the way you want, so you take action in the middle of the class. Macro strategy 2 talks about facilitate negotiated interaction. That is what Richard said. Yeah, meaningful learner and learner-teacher interaction in class. Anybody has to say something? Wants to say something?
Paola, just a comment on the first one. I know this is very difficult in certain contexts, but sometimes inviting a different English teacher to be in your class, you know, and to write down some notes or write down some observations, things that sometimes we are so automatized we do not notice anymore. And inviting someone to observe you as a colleague or as it can also be someone from your school, of course. This is going to depend on the person's proficiency if you teach the entire class in English. But having this feedback is extremely necessary to de-automatize certain things that we do, and that we have already lost the notion that we are maybe in the wrong way. So feedback is extremely important. And then there is something else, which is dropping our egos. This is something really important. We have to drop our egos if we really want to be good teachers. We have to be open to listen to.
Always open to listen to feedback. Exactly. Yeah, it depends on where you work. There is a person responsible for giving this feedback, academic coordinator. Yeah. But peer observation is really important too. When I was a coordinator, I asked teachers to visit each other and provide this feedback to the teacher and a self-analysis of what they were doing as compared to the teacher. And it was very interesting. So if you have this in class, it's nice, right? I don't know how it works at FURB, but at UFSC I had the internship estágio, and I was providing teacher learners with moments of self-analysis and peer and group analysis. So they presented classes and they gave feedback on their own other classes. And this is really important to know how you can improve your teaching, right? Macro strategy 2, I think we talked about, meaningful interaction in class. Macro strategy 3, minimize perceptual mismatches. This has to do with, sometimes a teacher has a goal in class, but the student doesn't understand that. So making the goal very clear for students. In this class, you are expected to do this. Now we're going to do this because you are going to learn X. Yeah. Macro strategy 4 is activate intuitive heuristics, is that students should be encouraged to explore the language. They should be able to infer grammatical rules instead of being given the grammatical rules, being taught the grammatical rules. When they use their cognitive processes to infer by examples, they learn better. They use the cognition to learn. Macro strategy 5, to foster language awareness, that is similar, and having a notion that language awareness is based on is learner oriented. It depends on the learner. It's cyclical. You have to recycle language, and holistic, treats the student as a whole. And the student should and it's based on an understanding that the student should understand there are general principles of the language, not just specific principles. And there is an operational experience, which means that the learner learns and makes something with the language. Macro strategy 7. Okay, sorry, this was 7 before 6. Okay. 7 is integrate language skills, that is speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So you have a whole repertoire of language, and not focusing only on one. 6 is contextualize linguistic input. The language should be contextualized and not taking just sentences out of the blue without any contextualization. Yeah. Ideally, it should be from a macro presentation, for example, from a reading text, from a listening text. You get specific chunks of language to practice or to learn. Macro strategy 8 is promote learner autonomy, so that learners are responsible, co-responsible for their learning. And then when you say to students, you should watch series in English, you should focus on English extra class. They are co-responsible for learners, right? Macro strategy 9 is about raising cultural consciousness of the learner, the local culture, the country where they are, and also the target culture. Yeah. But not only the target culture, but a mixture between the different cultures. And macro strategy 10 is ensure social relevance that is attuned with the societal, political, economic, and educational environment that the language is taking place. And this is very important in today's world, right? As we're talking about pandemic, for example, what's the social relevance of talking? So you make learning contextualized. Yeah. I don't know if you still have time, 9:30. What do you think, CG? Can I finish, or you want to finish now and open for questions?
Don't worry. Actually, my students, they have class until 10 p.m. But you can conduct according to your
Mine too.
your outline.
Okay, so I'll go on.
Yes.
Any question about any of the macro strategies that Kuma, my friend Kuma has devised? As you can see, they are for any method, right? They are not just one specific way of teaching. They can be applied to any teaching context. So that's interesting, yeah, that we have a broader approach to teaching, right? No? Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm finishing. It's just I have something here that it's interesting. So we are coming to the wrapping up or the closure of this presentation, and there is a quiz that is based on TEFL. TEFL is a nice word for you to memorize because this is the acronym for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. If you want to teach, for example, suppose you want to be an international teacher, you want to teach in China, let's suppose. You have to have a TEFL course. Yeah, you have to do this course to have a certificate. A TESOL certificate, a TEFL certificate, or a CELTA certificate, or a Delta certificate, yeah, to teach English in another country. So there is a quiz here, and now everybody should participate. What do you think, guys? According to the TEFL, right? The TEFL takes some methodologies into consideration. We're going to see which ones. Which of these is the most effective method to check students' understanding of a concept they just learned? So you taught a concept, you taught something. How do you check this? Ask them yes or no, or open-ended question that test their understanding. What is yes, no question? For example, is simple past used to talk about the present? This is a yes, no question. An open question is, what is simple past used for? Okay. And the second, surprise them with a pop quiz. Okay, guys, close your books because now we're going to have a test. Or ask them, do you understand? So what do you think, guys? Everybody can talk now. How do you think it's the best way, according to the TEFL? I'm thinking. No answer?
I would choose the second.
Test for you. Okay, the second, not at all, right?
The first.
The first, okay. Why not asking, do you understand? Why not asking, hey, do you understand what we have seen? Why not?
Because they can lie.
They can say, yes, teacher, understood. And they say, o que ela estava falando mesmo? Não entendi nada. Right?
Or maybe what he understood is different from what the teacher thinks and that he understands, you know, like
exactly.
About what Gabriela said about what he says about like minimizing perceptual mismatches.
Perfect,
right?
Perfect, exactly. Okay, can we go to the second? When giving instructions before an activity, which of these should teachers avoid? Repeating the instructions, asking follow-up questions to check understanding, translating instructions into the student's first language. Now it's going to be controversial, I think. You are giving instructions, you want students to do something, then you gave the instructions.
I would say the first.
Repeating the instructions is not good. Why do you think, Carla? It's Carla, right?
Yeah, it's not that it's not good, but I think the other ones would be better. Well, actually, translating is not better, but depending on the level of students, you should use some words. But repeating, you could use follow-up questions.
Porque eu preciso sair, entendeu?
students understand. I don't know, very controversial.
What do you think, guys? Do you agree with Carla? It's repeating the instructions?
I think is the second.
You shouldn't do that. Avoid is evitar, okay? Something that you shouldn't do.
I am with the third, I think.
Translating, I said it would be controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the first one, because when you repeat, you just do the same thing. And by doing the same thing, maybe you are going to reach people who understand through different ways.
Exactly, yeah. According to the TEFL course, if you want a different outcome, you have to do something different, right? So you say you give instructions in using certain kind of language. Maybe some students didn't understand, but if you use the same kind of language, maybe they will continue not understanding, right? Why translating is okay? Because sometimes, as I think Carla said, there are students who don't understand very well the target language, first courses, for example, yeah, English 1, let's say.
And also there's something, Paola, that it increases the PPP, right? The TTT, PPP,
yeah.
TTT, the teacher talking time, yeah? So if you just repeat and use, even if you use other words to explain, you kind of over-explain and you miss the point of doing the exercise. You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes translating is just on point. So what is the activity, right?
Exactly. So you go to the activity, yeah, go to the task, right? I have already seen teachers that took longer explaining than the task itself. You know, so why? Instructions should be clear and fast, right? However, they have to know what they have to do, right? So how can you check that they know? Asking them to repeat the instructions back. Okay, guys, so now you're going to get together in groups and start talking. Understood? Yes, teacher. Okay, what are you going to do? We are going to get together in groups, okay? Any question? Anything to add? So translating is okay, right? You shouldn't repeat the instructions as they were first. The other one is, in an EFL, English as a foreign language, classroom, the teacher should. English as a foreign language is like we have class here. We are teaching English in Brazil. English as a second language, you are teaching English in the United States, for example. So in the EFL classroom, the teacher should talk more than the students to model correct language, ask the students if they prefer more or less teacher talk time, minimize his or her own talking to give students plenty of opportunity to practice. Ay, Carla, you had to anticipate the question.
Sorry.
No problem. What do you think, guys? How much should the teacher talk? Any question here? No? Everybody's thinking, or everybody left the room? I cannot see anybody, so.
I'm reading. Wait.
Okay. So the first is talk more than the students to model correct language. The second is ask the students if they prefer more or less teacher talk time. And the last, minimize his or her own talking to give students plenty of opportunity to practice.
The third.
The third is correct. Yeah, this is the famous TTT, or teach and talking time, right? Ideally, students should talk more than teachers. Yeah, especially if you talk about in a communicative lesson. I'm not talking about communicative approach. I'm talking about a communicative lesson. Any question here that you don't understand?
What is plenty?
Plenty is a lot.
Oh,
A lot of opportunity to practice.
yes. First, I know it's not correct because the correct you say is not so important. The context is important.
And there are many other ways for students to get input. Yes, as we were talking before, yeah. The students can watch series, movies, read outside the class, watch podcasts, listen to podcasts in general, right? So the model, of course, the teacher is a model, but the moment of the class is the moment that students are practicing, not the teacher. Yeah. Go to the next. One of the most effective modern approaches for teaching English to speakers of other languages. Now we're going to get to one of the methods. Using repetitive grammar drills to build language memory, directly lecturing to students, teaching the language in the context of real-world tasks. This contradicts the POST method. But it says in the introduction, one of the most effective modern approaches for teaching English. What do you think?
Third?
Teaching the language in the context of real-world tasks?
Yes, because when you go to real world, you understand a lot of things, I think.
When you go to a restaurant, you know what to say in the restaurant. When you go to the airport, you know what to say to check in, for example. Do you agree, guys?
Yes, I agree, because it becomes more meaningful for the student.
Yeah, this is based on the this is the notion of the task-based approach and communicative approach, yeah, the context of real-world tasks. However, as we saw before, the POST method says that it's not a problem if you mix methods. For example, we are learning what to say when you go to a restaurant, yeah, and then we say, oh, I'll have something, right? Maybe the students don't understand I'll have or I'd like the fish, for example. Maybe students don't understand or have a hard time practicing and pronouncing these words. So it's not a problem, according to Prabhu and Kuma, to repeat these sentences or these utterances, okay? Let's repeat, everybody. I'll have, I'd like, okay? So the POST method says that it's not a problem to mix methods. But what is the problem of just using repetitive grammar drills? It's not real world, yeah? You don't speak by repeating repetitive and grammar sentences, right? When you talk about acquiring vocabulary, I think CJ can help here. It's important repetition, yeah, but then you are learning vocabulary. You're not learning how to function in the world.
Yes, and in terms of vocabulary, research shows that repetition is important, and the number of encounters that you have with a specific word makes the whole difference. And these encounters must be in different contexts, in different situations, yeah, so as you can like experience the semantic sphere of that word more profoundly, yeah. So you use word in a context, sometimes with the same meaning, sometimes with a meaning which is slightly different. Then you go on enriching this semantic atmosphere. I said sphere before, I don't know. The semantic atmosphere that surrounds a word. So repetition, yes, it is really important. The number of encounters of a word, it does make a difference for learning. According to research, it's not Sydney saying, yeah.
Yeah, I would add to what Sydney has just mentioned that when we talk about repetition, we cannot think about what we think in Portuguese when we say decoreba, when you repeat the same word in the same context for 20 times and then you know the vocabulary, right? So it's all related to what Sydney has mentioned, that you have the network, right? You see more words and then you connect and you encounter that word in different situations, so then it would stick. Yeah.
Yeah, contextualized repetition.
Yes.
Yeah. They're using sentences in context. Okay.
Like Cynthia just said, then it would stick. And I'm here adding something else to the use of to the verb.
Okay. Yeah. Next is when a student makes a grammar error, a grammar mistake during a speaking activity focused on fluency in class. Fluency is when the student should speak for a certain time, yeah, without stopping. The teacher should interrupt the student and correct it immediately, make a note of the error and address it later, not correct it at all.
The second.
You should do this.
Second, I agree.
Everybody agrees, I think, yeah. What's the problem of the first one? Why shouldn't you do the first one?
Because in the first, vai. Interrompe, daí a gente perde a linha de raciocínio e também fica um pouco constrangido.
Exactly.
May I say something?
Sure.
Yeah. I have to say that I believe in the first and in the second. Why? The second one, especially because of the affective filter. Yes, because you interrupt thinking. You put the student on the focus of attention, on the spot, which is not good. At the same time, I would say that when you correct at the moment the mistake is made, that information is in real time processed in your memory. Yeah, so you correct at the time the person is using it. So the person is going to receive a feedback and try to reformulate what she's trying to utter or say at the very moment in which the thing is really meaningful. And because of memory limitations, maybe if one does this correction a very long time after that, that information is not activated in memory anymore. So it may be more difficult for one to like activate what was said before and then correct it. So depending on my audience, depending on the students I have, sometimes I correct at a time. You know?
Yeah, depends on the student, yeah.
It's a point of view.
Depends on the focus of the task, right? Too. Example, you are role-playing a debate. You are role-playing a debate, right? One person should be for something, one person should be against. They're going to interact. If you start stopping the debate, they're going to lose the thread of thinking, yeah. Carla?
Sorry, no, I was just going to say what you said. It depends on the objective, right, of the exercise. If you are teaching grammar and you want them to speak about grammar, you can do that. But in this case, it's focused on the fluency. So the fluency, I don't think you stop, you don't interrupt. You make notes and then after you make my idea. But Sydney is correct. You know, you can do that. You can. This is okay to do, but it depends on the objective of the task.
Yeah, depends on your relationship with the student too. Yeah, that specific student that you are correcting, right?
As well.
And the last one, which of these is an effective classroom management strategy? Encourage the most confident students to speak up in class to inspire the others. Establish firm classroom rules from the first day. It's easier to loosen rules than to tighten them. Keep the classroom quiet at all times to encourage student focus and learning. Here we talk about sometimes there is a problem about class disruptions. Yeah, there are, especially with teenagers or children, there is a lot of noise and misbehavior. So what do you think is the most effective classroom management strategy?
I know the third is wrong, really wrong.
Yeah, maybe in the 2 centuries ago, it was what was happening. So the third is wrong. Which one, the first or the second?
I would go for the second.
Why?
Especially when we're dealing with teens or kids, you know, you need to establish the rules, what they can do, what they can't, as if you were creating a contract, you know. I remember my first coordinator when I worked in a language institute, she would say, sorry for the Portuguese, but she would say, o que é combinado não sai caro. So in the sense that if you establish firm rules, you can loosen them later, but not the opposite, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Another, again in Portuguese, tu dá a mão, eles querem o braço, right?
I want the whole body.
Yes. Yeah, if we're talking about kids, maybe most of you are going to start teaching in regular schools, yeah, and class disruption and indiscipline is a big issue nowadays, yeah. So establishing firm classroom rules, it's going to save a lot of time in the future, save energy, save stress, yeah, it's much easier. Okay, guys, so just to finish, why teaching? Why do you teach? And I have here something that Ayer said that I thought was very beautiful, that people teach as an act of construction and reconstruction, and as a gift of oneself to others. I teach in the hope of making the world a better place. I don't know, maybe it's a little naive and a little optimistic, but I believe in that. I still believe in that. What about you? What do you think? Why do you teach? Why do you want to be teachers? People are reading and thinking. Yeah. You want to change the world a little?
There's a video that I always show to my students, which is called The Power of Word, in which you can see in the beginning of the video a blind man seated in front of a church with a sign written, "I'm blind." And then people are there giving him coins and things. And then a lady comes and rewrites the thing. And then after that, people start donating money, lots of coins. And then the lady comes back. The blind man notices that it is the same lady because he touches her shoes. And then he asks, "What did you do to my saying?" And then she said, "I wrote the same, but in different words." And then the sign appears and it's written, "Today," are you hearing me? "Today is a beautiful day and I can't see it." So I think that, yeah, we are teaching a language which can be considered a lingua franca or foreign language, I don't know. But we are teaching them how to use the language to do something in the world. Yeah, it is knowledge, it is linguistic knowledge, it is formal knowledge, it is content knowledge, but at the same time, there is this thing behind. What are you going to do with the knowledge that you have? Yeah, and the way our world is at the moment, we have to really consider that language is a channel, is a tool that we can use to do something. And this can be very personal. You don't need to go to Africa and save hundreds of lives. You can do something in your community.
And it's going to change one life. You can change other lives too, right?
Perfect.
So that's the end of my presentation. I don't know if there is any question. We have 3 minutes. If any of the students have any questions. Thank you for staying so long. I'm sorry for the mix-up in the beginning.
No,
Technology. Yeah.
It happens. Thank you so much, Paola, for your lecture today, your conference,
your workshop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't know if you have observed, but Paola, besides bringing content, she was following the content she presented to us. If you observe Principle 4 in the text of Richards and Farrell, which says that the lesson provides appropriately structured and sequenced learning experiences. And then you see that Paola started with the brainstorming. She followed with the content. She involved us in interactions, trying to motivate us to speak in meaningful ways. And then in the very end, she presented a wrapping up so as she could assess what we got, what we understood from the content. We had Paola doing both things during all the time, teaching and using what she was teaching. And this was wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed. I learned something.
Okay. Good. So thank you all for the participation. Carla's students, Cynthia's students, yes. Professor Cynthia, Professor Carla, especially Professor Paola for accepting the invitation. Yes.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Professor Carla for her support as the course coordinator. And I would like to announce our next web conference that will be held on April 30th, which will address the theme Affective Factors that Hinder the Learning of the English Language. And in this web conference, we will count on the participation of Professor Alice Henke from Universidade para o Desenvolvimento do Alto Vale do Itajaí, Unidade. You are all invited.
Very nice.
Paola, thank you very much. I would ask you to remain, to stay in do not leave the room, because I would like to have a private talk.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sis.
Bye, Paola.
Good night.
Aren't we going to have a picture?
Oh, yes.
Please.
I can't take it tonight because I don't have the large gallery. I had on Friday.
Guys, could you open your cameras for us to have this scenario with many faces?
Yeah, let me see if I can change here.
Paola, in the 3 dots near the lead.
Tela inteira, yeah?
Yes, you can try large gallery or something like that. And then you can take a print screen.
Yeah. I am very small here.
Yeah, but in the large gallery, you become a bit bigger. Yeah.
You're never small.
Camera open.
You're never small.
Hi, Carla.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. No,
Where are the others?
Mais ações.
Yeah. Alicia.
Isso, vamos tirar o pijama, gente.
Yeah. It says here tela inteira, but it's not going.
But I think I can do something here. And you will be big, Paula.
Yes, because I'm very small.
Let's see people smiling. No, this is not good. Let me try again. More people, more people.
Ricardo, open your camera, please. Taiga.
You can just put your face like this, so we don't see you
you-
are wearing pajamas.
Daniel, Gabriel, Isabella. Isabella is already here.
I just need people smiling. 1, 2, 3, team. Woohoo! That's done. Let me see if it worked. Sydney, I'm gonna send it to you and then you make it available.
Okay.
People.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paola.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Sid. Have a great night.
You too.